radio on Super Talk 1270. Now, here's Travis Beist and Rob McLeod.
So my name is RJ Moen, and I've got my 1968 C10 sitting behind us here. Project that I've been working on now since about 2010 in one way, shape, or form. Actually started out as a completely different truck and then went and traded that truck for this truck in a roundabout way.
So I know we visited it before and you kind of have a story behind actually how you got this truck when you were down in, was it Indianapolis? Or Indiana, right? Yeah. So I know there's a little history behind this thing. So I don't know if you've ever heard the story.
Not the full story. I actually kind of know how you acquired this one from your last one.
So the original truck that I picked up down there was a truck that one of the doctors that I practiced with in the emergency room just outside of Indianapolis, he had from when he was a kid growing up in Colorado. And then he had actually brought that truck out to Indiana as a project for him to work on, and he ended up then storing it in my shop that I had down there. He found out that I had a place where I was keeping some of my stuff that I was working on, so he brought that over and actually had it in my shop. Well, he ended up then, because of some family things that happened, he ended up having to move back to Colorado. He decided at that time that it just wasn't something that he had the time to work on. And it had been in my shop for a year from the time that he had actually gone back to Colorado. And he said, he called me up. He said, RJ, sorry, man, I know I owe you for the shop. He goes, I'm not going to be able to work on that truck. And he said, I know your son and you have kind of been checking it out. He goes, why don't you guys just take it, and that'll be payment for the shop rent, basically. I said, I can't take that. That's something that's been in your family forever. And he said, don't worry about it. He goes, I'm back on the family farm. I've got all kinds of stuff. I don't need it. And so, lo and behold, I inherited this truck from him. Had it and worked on it for about 2 years. That was a 1972 C10. Red, had a step side box on it, short bed similar to this one, but with a step side. And the rest of the truck was in pretty rough shape, but the box was basically mint, perfect.
So was that truck kind of like still in the condition it came off the farm in?
The rest of the truck besides the box.
Like it was used and stuff.
I think the way you would describe the Holy Grail was the box of this truck.
It was. I mean, there wasn't a scratch on it. The paint was a little bit faded, but there wasn't a dent, nothing. I mean,
which is rare.
Yeah, really rare.
Exactly.
Considering, a lot of times those trucks are being used for tools. They were, there are workhorses for a straight box. That's
Absolutely.
Like, you don't see many of them.
Yeah, and his best explanation for it was the box never really got used, but we drove the truck everywhere.
Yeah.
And he said, but they had pavement out to close to where their farm was. Didn't see a lot of gravel roads. But the frame over the years had, just wore out basically. So down there, basically anywhere at this point in time, the step side box is that's like trying to find the most rare of rare parts for one of these, especially in that kind of shape. And so he
original.
So I started checking around. I was more interested in finding a flare side like this. That would
which is still rare and hard to find.
Exactly. Yeah.
Short boxes in general.
Short boxes are just hard to find.
Yeah.
So lo and behold, I started looking around. Found an actual flare side that I would like to get, which was this truck, and advertised my other truck, and basically had a guy who came and bought the truck basically for the box and gave me just about $2K short of what this one was.
So wasn't it, if I remember right, wasn't the guy that bought that from you, wasn't he like a drag race guy, or he raced or something? He was going into the raceway to the speedway or something like that?
Yep, exactly right.
And he saw the truck?
Yeah. So it just happened to be, where my shop was down there, wasn't far from where a lot of those shops where the
race shops.
All the race shops are down there. In fact, Tony Stewart's shop was just down the street from mine, and he just happened to be driving by, and I had it sitting outside, and he stopped in and said, "Hey, that box is perfect." He goes, "I need that for my project." I said, "Well, what's it worth to you?" And yeah, he gave me, a crazy number for it. And I was like, "It's yours."
Yeah.
Paid me cash right on the spot and walked away with it. So
he got just the box, or you got the entire truck?
He took the whole truck. He took the whole truck.
But what are you going to do with the rest of the truck? You don't take it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I knew that where this one was down in Texas, basically. So then I got in touch with the guy in Texas and had him send that one up to me. Found a couple other parts from a couple other trucks around Indiana, and here it sits. Yeah.
So it's kind of funny how you and I kind of go way back.
Yeah, we do.
We kind of have a history.
Yeah.
My mom used to drive school bus for you guys, you and your brothers, and we kind of grew up close to each other, probably about 12, 15 miles. And so we've known each other for
quite a while.
Yeah, we go back quite a ways.
Quite a ways, yeah.
I do remember, and I think I've told the story probably about 100 times, we kind of reconvened back, and I think it was like 2003 roughly, I think it was, when we opened up shop.
Yep.
And you had, I'm trying to think what your Jeep that was. That had to have been like an 80? Yeah, okay.
It was an 86 CJ7.
And you brought it to me, and this was, you had a 5.3 liter fuel-injected motor that you wanted to put in that thing, and back then that was something you just don't hear of. Yep. That's something that was such a challenge for me because it was something so unique that I was like, heck yeah, I'm for it. And you were already doing that back then already in 2003, that you were already into customizing and doing stuff.
So maybe a quarter of the parts were available for doing that kind of swap as there is now. Now it's like you could LS swap anything.
Yeah, and back then, you had to find and research and make it work. And I remember it was red, lifted, and you brought it in, and we ended up doing a partial frame off on this thing. We put new bushing, suspension, everything in it. And I do recall we had it for a while.
Yeah.
It was delivery date. You were coming to pick it up the next morning. Got it all washed up like we normally do. And it was a manual transmission. I don't know if you've ever driven a two-door Jeep the way it is, but they're squirrely.
Yeah, they're...
But now you put a loaded V8 in this thing, and it's 10 times worse.
Yeah.
And so I took it out for one last test drive down the strip, and our shop was actually down the road here about a mile.
Yep.
And I was bringing it in the shop, and it was a door in, door out shop.
Yep.
And the girl I was seeing at the time, she had her grandma's car. The thing was pristine. It was a 4-door car, not a scratch on it, never been over 55. And she had it for about a year, and she was getting ready to sell it that very next day. I actually think, to be honest with you, I actually think she had it sold. She was delivering it. So you have to picture this car was sideways at the end of the shop. And I was coming in with your Jeep, and I just so happened the throttle stuck on this thing is what I'm going to say. And I come zipping through the shop, and I actually T-boned the car.
I remember hearing this story.
So with that, it was bad enough that I had to face the music with her in the damage that I just T-boned this prestige car that she had.
What kind of car was that?
It was a 4-door Chrysler. I think it was like a Sebring.
Okay.
Sure.
So dealing with that was one task, because of course you might imagine she was probably not too impressed with me. Second of all, the one thing I was thinking of is, look at him. I had to explain this to him tomorrow, the next day, that I just...
Sure, you're a little more toned back then. Yeah.
So I panicked. Well, he was pretty close to this even back then. I panicked. I backed your Jeep off of the car, and it was like a little scratch in the bumper, I think, if there was like no damage to this Jeep. And I just, like, my heart sank, and I was more worried about him than I was anything else, because
I would be
A, customer, B, a friend, but it's just, a business owner, like you still got to think of it as, hey, this is a customer's
worst case scenario.
And how this, how this delivery was long overdue, and that happens.
Yeah.
It's like,
and I put so much. I mean, we did so much work to this Jeep.
So much work.
And I remember you come down the next day and you came in to pick up the Jeep, and I was like, RJ, hey, man, I'm sorry, but I got to tell you something. And I started telling you the story, and I remember you just laughing at the whole deal. And I thought, like, this guy's going to rip my head off. And here you're just like, hey, it's whatever. Hey, it's cool,
Those things that happens.
Yeah. And I'll never forget, that thing is just burned in my head. I'll never forget that story to the day I die. And it's just like, anybody that hasn't heard it, it's the first thing I want to say is, I got a story for you.
Got the story for you.
Yeah.
I remember I came down there on a Saturday, and I vividly remember this. You were sitting, because you were getting ready to basically take the body off. But when the motor had initially been put in, the way that harness was set up, there wasn't a natural disconnect at the firewall, and you were sitting in there with that watertight plug, going every pin.
So there was probably 30 wires, and I had a weather pack. Every wire. Well, there's only 4-wire plug. So you know how many 4-wire plugs I had to fill in? And there was no slack. And I remember laying up on the engine compartment over the back of the motor, putting these weather pack connectors
every
in.
pass-through was tight.
Every single one of them.
It was crazy how just the memories at that Jeep. And you ended up keeping that for quite a while.
I had it for quite a while, yeah. Then when we moved up to Watford was when I ended up selling that to a guy up there. But yeah, talk about horsepower and squirrely, though. That thing was crazy.
Yeah, you had to respect that thing to drive it. And that was a two-hander. And I remember the power and torque that thing had was unreal. It was crazy.
Well, that chassis was never meant for anything over 250 horse,
That motor came out of I believe it was an 80... Yep, it was an 84 Vet or something like that like CK Motors had.
Super early fuel injection.
Yeah. Cool. That was quite a Jeep. Absolutely. You've done a fair number of projects for me.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you guys.
I had that you did the lifted. Did put a bale bed on the back of an old.
I remember that. Yeah, the farm truck. Remember that. We also lifted your Ram. New Ram.
My new Ram lifted that.
I think it looks good.
Yeah, that really turned.
I can always pick you out when you're driving.
Yeah, it stands out.
It stands out. Yeah, there's a lot of lifted new Rams with that one. Just clean.
Yeah, good. It turned out beautifully. Yeah, absolutely. And then all the work you guys have been doing on this one, it's just amazing. It's incredible.
And we've done with this now. You've done some motor upgrades. So there's a fuel injected big block in this thing, correct?
Correct.
And which runs very well.
It does. Yeah, with a little help from you guys getting it tuned right, but it definitely runs like just hit the key, starts immediately, everything's perfect.
Nice.
I think one thing that we've always talked about, just me giving you rides back and forth from wherever you need to go, is the unique sound this truck has.
Yeah.
It sounds like something. It has that throatiness of a nice American big block, but it kind of sounds almost like high end.
It does. There's almost a European little bit of
exactly. I don't want to say
growl to it.
Yeah, it's unique.
It is. I agree.
I love it.
And it definitely turns heads where we go.
Every time just like now when I started it up over at the shop and pulled it out, everybody that was over there comes looking down, trying to figure out what that sound is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely turns heads.
Were we ever to find out? Because I remember I had to do some looking one day. I think we did find out what cam's in that thing. I think that's kind of what allows that tone.
It's if I remember right, is it a Crane? It's a thumper cam. I know that. I can't remember who exactly makes it. But yeah, with the the motor's 30 over, so it's a 468.
Yep.
It's got a really heavy, big lope in the cam, and that really changes that sound.
Yeah.
And then,
I think
it was good before, but the exhaust that you guys fitted to that and manufactured to get it around all the bends just right. I don't know, there's something about it that just makes that tone just perfect.
Well, I know that was one of the biggest things too when you brought it in here, having that X pipe in there. Didn't have that before, and with these kind of motors, I mean, that's a huge thing that
you got to
really
flow them.
put in there. Yeah, it does make a big difference. And I know we've done stages on this truck, but when you brought it to us, it was lowered with wheels.
Correct.
And so we did motor work on it, wiring stuff. We also upgraded the interior to some, actually twice. Actually, we converted it little kind of like semi-stock, I guess I should say. And then from there we went all out and did a full custom TMI interior in it. Even a stereo system in it. It's got a nice rockin' Alpine kicker combo. Sounds really good. So I know like a lot of customers that we deal with, we do a lot of stuff in steps. We do whatever the customer wants and that can't afford to do everything all at once, or in some case like you like how this thing is, and I know you have future plans for it, but it sure doesn't suck like this either. So it's like a win-win, because you know that you're going to change it, and you know that you have future plans, but you want to enjoy it baby steps to get it there, because this thing is still cool and it still looks awesome.
It is.
It still turns heads.
Yeah, it's a good 30-footer. I mean, from a few steps back, it looks nice. I mean,
I think it's cool, the process of that you're taking of how the truck's evolving. You get to do one thing, you enjoy it. It kind of just keeps that excitement level. It's like, I'm looking forward to the next thing. So sometimes we do these, we give a $130,000 car back to the customer. Well, that wears thin in 6 months, because it's complete. There's nothing else left. So it's like when you even just cleaning up the wiring, it's like, okay, you got a good sound car. You could drive anywhere. Okay, that's covered. Now, what are you looking around at in the interior?
Right.
Well, now you got something really good to look at, and just kind of just keeps on slowly tying the entire truck together.
Yeah, I think the thing I've noticed too is, even from some of the first discussions we had when we kind of started to make a little bit of a plan, there's been little things that we've changed along the way, just because, we did one thing and then it was like, well, now with looking at it the way it is, I think it would look better if we went this way with it. And so those little changes just really seem to, I think as we progress along and continue to do more work on it, it's going to be that same kind of thing where those little things that make such a huge difference.
Well, and the other thing too that helps out too is when you got this truck, it was partially somebody else. Somebody already had their fingers in it, per se. And so it's also nice that you bringing it here and letting a fresh pair of eyes kind of get underneath it and see like, okay, what do you guys see, and get it? And I know you got 11 at your shop. It's cool.
Yeah.
You actually got some pretty neat toys and stuff over there. But to get a second pair of eyes underneath it and look at it, we found some things that we needed to address, some safety issue stuff.
Safety issues, for sure.
And we did. We fixed it. So then that way that it'll make it better out on the highway and safer too.
Yeah. From the front brakes pulling to the right and the motor mounts that I don't know if they were actually holding the motor or not.
They definitely weren't correct.
There were some things that definitely needed to be straightened out. But I think getting the wiring issues, I think,
helped the truck run a lot better.
Made such a big difference, like any old truck that has, a gob of wires hanging down underneath the dash. This one was just as bad as any other one that I've ever seen. And, just going through them, and literally you guys went through them wire by wire and took out anything that didn't belong. Made sure everything else was connected to something it was supposed to be connected to, made sure all the grounds were perfect.
Right.
And it took care of so many problems.
And then somebody put an aftermarket fuel injection system on this thing, and they kind of had it hooked up and kind of not, and fixing that wiring on top of it.
Absolutely.
Just cleaning it all up, making sure everything was wired correctly.
Correct. Absolutely.
And then tuning it so it actually ran. Because I remember before when you first brought it, you would start it in your shop, and I remember, like, I think we had to jump start it, and my eyes were just watering. It was so rich sitting over there, and I just thought, this thing is not right at all.
It wasn't even close. It was enough to run, but that was about it.
Putting a ViTech system on a truck is, you got to know what you're doing. It's not something you just slap on. It's not a Holley kit by any means.
Yeah. And self-learning, I don't know about that. That's very minute. That I'm going to use like very loosely when I say,
5% self-learning.
You pretty much have to get it.
It gets
95%, and then it self-learns maybe for like the next maybe 5%. So it's a handful.
Things that you learn as you go along. I think anybody that was really interested in doing that conversion, I would definitely point them in a different direction than ViTech. Now, I'm sure they're coming along as well, and I don't want to badmouth ViTech, but just this system here was certainly a handful.
Yeah, and like anything, they're fairly new. They haven't been out probably as long as some of the competitors out there, so you give them time, just like anything. They'll R&D it, they'll get the bugs worked out, and they'll just hopefully better their product, because they'll learn more. The feedback, the more product they get out there, the more feedback, and they can fix this stuff. But if you don't have that patience, there is
certainly applicable. I'm sure you can run hundreds of different mapping through that module, but it's just for someone like you that just wants to start the truck and drive, it's like you want one map and one map that runs good.
Right. So exactly right.
So everything now that we've done to this thing, and I know you still have plans and ideas, and I know you were talking, I do believe you have a 6-liter, I think, that you have sitting in your shop that you were thinking about maybe twin turboing it or something, or
it'd be pretty cool to do it.
I think you were saying something like that your plans were for this.
So I have a 6-liter LS3 that came out of a safari van, I think. So it's got the iron block, basically the perfect setup to do forced induction. So basically pull all the old internals out of it, put a fully forged rotating assembly in it, and just go crazy with it. I think it'd be fun. This pickup would be just perfect one to put that into. But then I think, again, goes back to, if a guy's going to do that, then do you want to put a whole new chassis under it, get really serious about it?
Absolutely.
And I think that combination would just make this thing perfect. So.
And that's the thing for being in this industry. And, I've been doing this since 1999 as a business. And, you came aboard a little over a year ago, but you're still familiar with the industry and you're a car guy. It's crazy, we try to educate our customers. If you're going to stick big motors and brakes and stuff in any older vehicle, chassis is like, it's almost like buying a good pair of shoes, but putting crappy socks on, it's like you want a good foundation, and there's a start of it. And it's amazing how having a good chassis underneath there, you can tell a big difference on how that truck reacts and handles.
Well, you just got to remember that originally, these trucks were designed for work uses, not taking corners at 85, 90, not running through switchbacks, and they weren't designed for 600-700 horse. Not even close.
Exactly. Not even close. I mean, most of them came from the factory, probably 150 horse. And even if they came with a big block in them, they were probably still only a couple hundred horse. At that time, it just wasn't the thing. And you've got frames that are, they're basically just a channel frame. They're not a fully boxed frame. They've got very minimal amounts of support in them.
They're just rectangles. They're not.
That's right.
The geometry isn't there.
You don't have any cross supports, really. They're just not made to handle that type of horsepower.
So that would definitely be. So having a better chassis in this thing will definitely improve and handle all the horsepower that I know you're thinking about putting into this truck.
I think, getting somewhere between 800 to 1,000 horse to the rear wheels would be a pretty good starting point. It'd be kind of fun.
That's a pretty streetable number.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? If guys can do it. I mean, if you're gonna go, guy might as well go big. And it's the nice thing about it is there's so much room under the hood in these. You've got all landscape that you
platforms there.
Yeah, you can put anything you want underneath there. Something like that, keeping it low, so you don't have to do anything with the hood, come up through the hood, anything like that. Twin turbos. Yeah, that'd be a perfect setup.
So I know you have 2 kids, correct? You have a daughter and a son.
Yep.
Which one gets it? So have they said anything, or what?
No.
Like, is it somebody like, I want a graduation present here, or is this all going to be Dad?
My son's convinced he's going to get my 3/4 ton Dodge truck. He already said that's the one he wants. Actually, my daughter Abby, who's just finished up her first year at NDSU, she's the only one that's driven this other than me. Even my wife hasn't driven this. Only Abby's driven this. So she thinks it's pretty cool. Her favorite thing initially was that door didn't work on that side, so the only way you could get in it was diving through the window. So she liked to Dukes of Hazzard it and jump through the window.
She liked to
that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, she thinks this thing's pretty neat. I think she'd be one who would get a kick out of it.
So far, nobody is
Nobody's
saying this is Dad. When you get rid of this, this is my truck.
No,
so not yet. But,
not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. Let's see.
So one thing that I've been wanting to ask, so we've kind of gotten the truck to a point where it's turnkey. I mean, how much have you enjoyed this truck? I mean, how many miles have you been putting on it?
Not enough. That's the thing right now. I'm really hoping this summer that I get a chance to just get it out and really put some miles on it, drive it,
daily it, yeah.
Yeah, just really put it through its paces day after day and just see how reliable it is. Really try to break it without getting too crazy. Make sure everything is, pretty much turnkey, so the guy can feel it's a reliable truck and drive it every day. I think that'd be great.
I think it's a pretty interesting dynamic driving a truck like this every day, where you get in, you're on your way to work, and you're not looking at a big screen, or it's just. You got the radio going, your phone's in your pocket. Generally when you hop in your new truck, okay, you set your phone there, you're looking at your phone, you got your big screen, you got your nice dash. Well, it's like you hop in this thing and drive to work. It's like you just want to put your arm out the window, or put it over on the side and just cruise. It's like that's your drive to work.
Yeah.
And it's I got a little bit newer C10, and I get to drive it to work every once in a while, and man, I love it. I instantly start the day out in a great mood. It's no better way to get to work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that Billy Madison movie where he rolls up in his TA and he's got, what is it, like a AC/DC shirt on and his leather jacket. It's like you almost feel like that when you want to get in. Like,
exactly.
It's just old school and you love it.
Yep. And the looks that you get, doesn't matter what day it is or who it is, they're all going to look. This thing by. I've even had a couple different times pull up to a stoplight or pulling up to a stoplight, and there'll be either a Mandan or Bismarck police officer sitting at the stoplight, and more than once I've had them look over at me and give me a thumbs up or wave at me, and they all think it's pretty cool too,
which is nice. And I know you've been pretty good about letting us. We've taken it to a couple of car shows already, and we had it in our booth for a car show, an indoor car show, and we had the stereo going, and a lot of lookers. It's crazy. People come up and they walk and they see, like you said, it's original, so they're thinking, why would they have this truck here? It's got a cool look to it. And then as they walk up to it and they see the engine compartment and they see the
clean and
the interior, and then right away their eyes get big, and then they're curious.
Absolutely.
It's a great looking truck.
I've had a couple people who saw the truck at the car show and now have run into me and said, hey, I saw your truck at the car show. That thing is awesome. So it definitely got some looks, no doubt about it.
That truck was surrounded by a lot of beautiful cars there, and everybody just seemed to gravitate towards that. It's got a look about it. And, once they see kind of how the truck was built almost reversely, where you took care of the engine bay, the interior, and there was some really nice paint jobs at that car show, but yet people were just like, it's just different in an absolute great way.
I think that was the biggest thing that drew people, because they're coming to a car show and they're always used to seeing brand new paint, brand new, restores. Yeah. And all of a sudden in a booth, they see this, and we had it under a tent with lights on it. Yep. So people are curious. Yeah, why would this be a center of attention? Yeah. And then, like I said, when people actually came up to it and they saw what had been done to it, it really got people interested.
And I think the car guys, and especially, there's a lot of C10 guys, they would just, I'd go up to them and they'd instantly start telling me how their dad or their brother or someone in their family had these C10s. It's just such a classic American vehicle. Yeah. It's just, I'm a diehard Ford guy, but I got myself a C10 just because they're cool.
They are cool. Oh, yeah, they are
absolutely.
The years before this, before you got to 67, and then even 73, the first square bodies that came out, and then the second generation square bodies that came out. I mean, they all have a very classic look to them. They're all a little bit different, but when you see them, they catch your eye. There's something about them. They just draw your attention. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited to see keep moving forward on this thing and doing. As your wants and needs change, to be a part of it, and I'm excited to just keep making that change for you, because it's always, I love seeing this thing come in our shop, because we know that it's not going to be okay. RJ's going to bring it in here and he wants all this done to it. Well, that's not how you work. No. It's you like to do a little bit at a time, but those little bits are big little bits. They're game changers.
They really are.
And then we get to see the truck leave, and then we get to appreciate it too, until the next little thing that you want done. Yeah. So I'm excited.
Yeah, you guys have been great to work with. I mean, from the very first time I brought it in, you guys kept it, had it around for a while, got quite a number of things knocked out on it that just really made the truck more reliable. And then we kind of dug into some of the more interesting things in the stereo and the interior, and that really changed the truck dramatically. And now it's just, this summer now, finally get a chance to take it cruising and really just put some miles on it and enjoy it. I'm really looking forward to it. So, yeah.
And it's nice too, having customers like you come in, and, me being on both sides of the desk, I always say that to a lot of people, because, I'm a customer to car shops here around town, and I'm also, owning a custom car business. It's like you always want to hear what the customer wants, and it's like, okay, RJ's, you're very specific of what you want done, like most customers. And the good thing about it is the guys that I have here are car guys, so they treat the cars as if it's their own, because they have a love and a passion for this. And I remember when you brought it in for the first interior go around, and you wanted the red carpet, and I went up to Rob and I said, I know what he wants, but I'm going to step in and we're going to put nicer carpet in, and we're going to put that really nice, classy, ritzy looking red in there instead of that big, cut loop that you wanted. And I'm like, I know RJ's cool. Yeah. We kind of have a history together, so hopefully I've done worse to him before and he's never been mad at me. So I'm going to go out on a limb on this and be like, he's going to be all right with it. And I remember you coming in and you were just impressed that, we took it to the next step without, costing. I mean, it really, honestly, it didn't cost any more than what you already picked up, but it was Rob was able to find a lot better quality carpet that just changed the look of this truck. Did. And you were just like, man, that's awesome, because what other place probably would have just done what I said and not thought outside the box to do that. And so we get involved in it just as much as a customer does. And that's what my guys love and enjoy, is the fact that when we do these builds, we get to put some of our, I wouldn't say wants or needs, but our know-hows in it, and like how we want to do things and build things, and that really also helps out, and it completes what the customer is looking for.
Well, perfect example was like the headliner in the truck. You buy something from a company that looks like what you want in the catalog. It shows up. It's not exactly what it's advertised as. a lot of plastic pieces that just really don't belong in the truck.
Don't want to see it.
Just really kind of underwhelming. And you guys just took it to the next level, did some custom work on it that just, I mean, you go in there now, you look, and if you don't know that that's what it is up around the headliner, you would think it came that way.
Right.
You know, it just looks perfect. And that just changed that from, it probably would have looked a little just sketchy.
I know it would have bugged you.
It would have.
Yeah.
It really would have. There's no doubt, because it would have been crooked.
Right.
It would not have been right.
And you know, and it's crazy. I'm a car guy. Motorcycles is what got me first. And you know, I've always been intrigued with cars, but my heart started in motorcycles, and then I converted. You know, I wouldn't say I got tired of the motorcycles, but you know, building custom bikes for years, and you know, having motorcycles since I was young, it was just got to be something normal for me. So getting into the car and truck industry part of it, it was, you know, got me excited again. And, you know, it's like falling in love with the industry all over. And I do any chance that I can go into a car show, I do. I'm all about it. I've been to Barrett Jackson auctions. I've been to Good Guys car shows. I've been to
Hot August
Nights in Reno, and you're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of cars that you see that I've walked for 5 days straight, and I didn't see every car, and it's crazy. And it's amazing how, you know, you look, it's the attention to detail.
Absolutely.
And I've also visited other shops that when you look at stuff, you know, we're all about, you know, when we paint a car, it's the gaps and the fitment. And it's crazy how they miss a lot of that stuff. And getting back to that interior piece, you know, there's probably a lot of shops that would have just, well, this is what he brought, this is what they say to install it, so that's what we did. And not think outside the box and think, well, if this was my truck and I was putting it in, how would I want it to look?
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. You know, that was one example. Another one was just the TMI interiors. I can't say enough good things about the way that showed up. I mean, it just out of the box looked amazing. But once you start to assemble it, you start to see some of the little things that you can just take it to that next level, and making some filler plates and some things to really fill in those gaps, and just, you know, it changed it so much. The interior looks good, but it looks even better because of the little additional things that were done just to finish it, you know. And you guys, you know, again, I think had it been a different shop, in all likelihood, probably would have came back to me without any of those things done, and it would have been underwhelming. It really would have.
Well, it's kind of a two-way street too, because it's nice having a customer like you that has full trust in us, that we know whatever decision we make, we're gonna have your backing of it. And so it's really nice. You know, I got to say, from, you know, I'm not the most hands-on guy when it comes to working on these cars, but it was nice having you just, you know, openly communicate and stuff like that. I know you're great to work with, and that makes everything with the truck go a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Well, the communication was always spot on. I mean, you guys, you know, I wouldn't hear from you for a while, and then I'd get a message, you know, hey, we ran into something, can you stop by for a second and take a look at this? And it was always, you know, it was always something that decision really would make such a difference in how it ended up looking. And on the surface, it probably seemed like a minor thing, but I think had those connections not been made and the communication been done, it could have really, you know, changed the way the finished product looked. As far as being smooth and seamless, I mean, you guys just every time went the extra mile to make sure that was all done beyond my expectation.
Well, I appreciate it. It's always good to hear positive, good feedback from customers, and not only because I know you, but again, you know, and that's the thing is, you know, I was raised, I'd say I was born here. I was raised in a small town, and being, you know, I moved back here in '99 and been kind of in the community because of this business for quite a few years. And it seems like either I know the customer as a friend, and they come in, and you're still a customer, or they start out as a customer and they leave as a friend. Yep. We get customers that we never met before that stop in at a regular basis and give us snacks and check in on us, but it's always business. Yep. It doesn't matter that I know you, that I know him, he's not going to care. That's never the point. And then we always treat you like a customer, and you are the customer. So, there's always that mutual respect. Absolutely. There all the time.
Yeah. And I always had I always felt comfortable because I knew if there was something, what I was suggesting to you guys that I wanted to do, I knew that if it was something that you were just like, okay, he's talking out his ass, you guys would have stopped. You would have said, no, I know what you think that might be the way you want to go, but take a look at this. And I just always knew that I was in good hands from that standpoint, because every time, whether it was my first truck that you guys worked on or the Jeep that you worked on, my second truck, every time, every suggestion you guys made as far as whether it was a wheel tire combination or whatever it was always spot on. And I mean, anybody who's seen those vehicles in the past would know, they turned out amazing. And a lot of that comes down to you guys helping me make the right decisions. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's being in this industry for as long as I have and going back to building bikes. Yeah. I've learned throughout the years that when customers come in, they kind of have ideas, right. But once you start laying them on paper, you're like, that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. That it's not gonna look good. And then you kind of guide them back in and show them, like, this is what I would do. Kind of take what you're looking for and what your end result wants to be. Yep. And we'll kind of narrow it down a little bit and point down the right direction. But that, kind of getting back with the interior, that's with everything. Because I know you wanted really cool with that TMI, but you want it to look like it was really made for the truck, and that's what we took that next step, and Absolutely. We hopefully that we conquered that for you.
There's no question. Yeah.
So I appreciate it, RJ. I appreciate you giving us some time to visit with you on the truck and kind of get some history. I knew that this thing had a story behind it, and it's always neat to hear. It's not only getting a review from the customer, but it's always when Rob even deals with people that come in and from the very first time that they want something done, and it's usually, if he doesn't ask, I do. It's coming shortly, but it says like, why are you building this? Like, I want to know.
There's a story.
Yeah, and it's crazy how many people have a story, and you just sit and listen, and it's crazy how interesting it is, and people need to hear some of this stuff. I've never heard of anybody come in and say, I just bought it here, just do whatever you want for it. Right. Nobody's. When people bring in a vehicle to us, it reminds them of something, or it's something that they had, or there's a meaning, there's some heart behind it, and it's always nice to know what that story is. And it's always, to me, that makes me get to understand the customer and the outcome, and like how they want this end project to look like, just by knowing the history and what it means to them. Yep. So
I think getting that personal touch is what makes all the difference. I think that just goes back to those little tiny things that can make such a difference in the end. I agree. I think that's super important.
Well, again, I appreciate you coming down, RJ, and visiting with us. If you are interested in looking at this truck and seeing more pictures of it, I know we have pictures on our website, DakotaCustoms.com, and that's Dakota Customs with a K and Z.com. And you can check us out on Facebook. We do have pictures on there, and that's also Dakota Customs. And let us know if you like it, if you like our podcast. Until next time, this is Dakota Customs Unriveted, and we'll talk to you later.
See you guys.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Unriveted Radio. Also available on demand with the SuperTalk 1270 mobile app. Download in the App Store or Google Play today. Unriveted Radio, presented by Dakota Customs, a full-service custom garage on the Strip in Mandan.
This program has been paid for by